The crimson sun of Epsilon, 7 cast long shadows across the desolate landscape as Private Kale adjusted the straps of his tactical vest. The human encampment sprawled unevenly across the rocky terrain, a cluster of prefabricated tents and defensive barriers that stood in stark contrast to the planet's natural formations. Dust devils danced between supply crates, carrying with them the metallic tang of alien soil mixed with the acrid smell of human technology. Kale's tent sat at the edge of the perimeter, strategically positioned near the communications array yet far enough from the command center to afford some semblance of privacy. The standard-issue shelter was barely large enough to accommodate his cot and personal gear, its synthetic fabric doing little to muffle the constant hum of distant machinery and the occasional bark of orders from nearby troops. Inside, the air felt heavier than usual, thick with the accumulated tension of weeks spent on this hostile world. He had just finished checking his weapon for what must have been the 100th time that day when the first unusual sound reached his ears. A subtle disturbance in the otherwise predictable rhythm of camp life. It wasn't the familiar crunch of boots on gravel or the mechanical whir of maintenance drones. Rather, it was something softer, more deliberate. Kale's combat training kicked in automatically, his body tensing as he listened intently to the approaching footsteps. The fabric walls of the tent seemed to press in around him as the sounds grew closer. His hand instinctively moved toward his sidearm, though protocol dictated maintaining peace with their alien counterparts. Through the thin material, he could make out the silhouette of someone approaching, distinctly feminine in shape, yet unmistakably alien in certain proportions. The figure paused just outside his entrance flap, hesitating for a moment that felt like an eternity before taking another step forward. Inside the tent, every muscle in Kale's body remained coiled like a spring, his breath shallow but controlled. He knew the importance of maintaining diplomatic relations, especially now when humanity's survival might depend on cooperation with these extraterrestrial beings. Yet military conditioning warred with curiosity as he watched the shadow darken the entrance, wondering what possible reason could bring one of them here, to his isolated corner of the camp. As the tent flap pushed aside, revealing the unexpected visitor, Kale found himself face to face with an alien presence unlike any he'd encountered before. She stood perhaps 2 heads taller than him, her slender frame wrapped in combat armor that seemed to shimmer between shades of deep purple and midnight blue. Her skin carried an iridescent quality, catching the dim light in ways that made her appear almost otherworldly. Most striking were her eyes, large, multifaceted orbs that glowed softly with an inner light, shifting colors with each subtle movement of her head. Kale's initial shock gave way to careful observation as she stepped fully into the confined space. Her movements were graceful yet purposeful, betraying a warrior's discipline beneath her alien physiology. The air around her seemed to vibrate faintly, as if responding to some unseen energy field emanating from her being. Her hair-like appendages, which appeared more crystalline than organic, floated gently despite the stillness of the tent's interior atmosphere. Despite their obvious physiological differences, there was something undeniably human about her stance. The slight tilt of her head as she took in her surroundings, the way her fingers hovered near her weapon belt in a gesture of caution that mirrored Kale's own. Her armor bore markings that suggested rank or specialization, though their meaning remained indecipherable to human understanding. The symbol on her chest plate, a complex geometric pattern that seemed to pulse with contained energy, caught Kale's attention particularly. It radiated an authority that transcended species boundaries. Their eyes met in a moment of mutual assessment, neither making any sudden moves. Kale noted how her breathing pattern, if indeed she breathed in ways humans understood, remained steady, indicating either remarkable composure or sophisticated control over her biological functions. The slight twitch of her facial features, which he interpreted as nervousness or uncertainty, revealed that whatever brought her here hadn't been part of her planned mission parameters. The silence stretched between them like a living thing, charged with unspoken questions and potential consequences. Kale's military training screamed at him to maintain protocol, to call for backup or at least announce her presence to command. Yet something in her demeanor, perhaps the way her luminous eyes darted nervously toward the tent's entrance as if contemplating retreat, stayed his hand on the communicator. Instead, he found himself studying her more closely, noting how her armor seemed designed for both protection and stealth, much like his own equipment. They remained locked in this tense tableau, 2 soldiers from different worlds sharing a moment of perfect stillness within the confines of a human shelter. The air itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for one of them to break the delicate balance they had unwittingly created. Outside, the normal sounds of camp activity continued unabated, oblivious to the unprecedented encounter occurring within the small, nondescript tent. Time seemed to fracture as they stood frozen in mutual assessment. The alien woman's multifaceted eyes narrowed slightly, their kaleidoscopic patterns shifting through shades of violet and silver. Kale's mind raced through countless scenarios. Was this an intelligence operation? A diplomatic incident waiting to happen? Or perhaps something entirely beyond human comprehension? His military instincts screamed for action, yet something in her posture suggested vulnerability rather than threat. A low-frequency vibration began to emanate from her armor, too subtle for human ears to detect consciously but registering in Kale's bones like distant thunder. Her crystalline appendages extended slightly, catching the dim light in prismatic bursts that painted the tent's interior with dancing rainbows. Kale noticed her hand moving toward a device on her belt, not to weapons, but to what appeared to be a communication interface. The gesture seemed hesitant, almost apologetic. Breaking the silence, he activated his universal translator, the soft hum of the device filling the tent's cramped space. "I mean no harm," he ventured, his voice carefully modulated to convey calm despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. The translator processed his words into a series of melodic tones that hung in the air between them. To his surprise, she responded immediately, her voice emerging as a complex harmony of pitches that translated into fragmented human speech. "Not intentional entry. Seek safe point." Her words triggered a cascade of recognition in Kale's mind. This sector had recently experienced increased ion storm activity, known to disrupt alien navigation systems. Could she have been seeking shelter from such a disturbance? The thought aligned with her current behavior, the cautious movements, the apparent concern about being discovered. His tactical assessment shifted, from potential enemy to possibly endangered ally. Yet military protocol demanded immediate reporting of any unauthorized contact. Kale's internal conflict manifested in his rigid stance, muscles taut with the effort of maintaining control. The alien woman seemed to sense his dilemma, her posture shifting into what Kale recognized as a universal gesture of non-aggression. She raised both hands slowly, palms facing outward, while her armor's luminescent patterns dimmed to a soft glow. The situation grew more complex as Kale noticed subtle details about her condition. The fine layer of conductive dust coating her armor suggested she'd been exposed to the planet's electromagnetic fields for an extended period. Her movements, while controlled, carried traces of fatigue that only a trained observer would detect. These observations created an ethical dilemma. Protocol dictated immediate containment and reporting, but humanitarian principles suggested offering assistance. Neither made a move to trigger alarms or call for reinforcements. Instead, they maintained their silent dialogue, communicating through minute adjustments in posture and expression. Kale's translator struggled to process the nuances of her responses, occasionally emitting bursts of static when her vocal harmonics exceeded human frequency ranges. Each technical hiccup seemed to increase her visible anxiety, her glowing eyes flickering with what Kale interpreted as growing distress. In this suspended moment, the reality of their situation crystallized. Two soldiers, representatives of species separated by light years of space and evolutionary history, standing toe-to-toe in a human tent on an alien world. The implications of their encounter rippled outward, touching upon diplomacy, survival, and the fundamental nature of interspecies contact. Both knew that whatever decision emerged from this confrontation would ripple through their respective chains of command, potentially altering the fragile balance of cooperation between their peoples. The intimate confines of the tent seemed to amplify every nuance of their interaction. Kale observed how the alien woman's armor responded to her emotional state, its luminescent patterns fluctuating in intensity with each passing second. When his gaze lingered too long on her crystalline appendages, they pulsed with a soft lavender hue, suggesting either awareness of his attention or perhaps a form of involuntary response. He quickly averted his eyes, realizing that even among alien species, certain behaviors might carry unintended meanings. Her attempts at communication grew more frequent, though often interrupted by bursts of static from the struggling translator. Fragments of sentences emerged. Storm surge. Signal lost. Not hostile. Each successful transmission seemed to bolster her confidence, evidenced by the gradual straightening of her posture and the reduction in her armor's defensive shimmer. Kale responded cautiously, choosing words that emphasized shared experiences rather than cultural differences. The physical proximity necessitated by the tent's limited space created an unexpected intimacy. When she shifted position to avoid activating a sensor panel, their shoulders briefly brushed, an accidental contact that sent shockwaves through both their nervous systems. Her reaction was instantaneous, a sharp intake of breath accompanied by a rapid color shift in her skin tone, while Kale's military training fought against his instinctive recoil. They both froze, processing the significance of this unprecedented touch between their species. Through the translator's imperfect conversions, a narrative began to emerge. She had been part of a reconnaissance team monitoring the electromagnetic disturbances affecting both human and alien operations. When an unexpected ion surge overwhelmed their shielding, she had diverted from her unit, seeking stable ground. Her species' natural sensitivity to electromagnetic fields had driven her toward the human encampment's grounded structures, specifically toward Kale's tent, which housed sensitive communication equipment. Their exchange revealed surprising parallels in their military cultures. When she demonstrated basic combat stances, Kale recognized modified versions of human defensive positions. In return, his display of standard-issue weaponry drew from her a series of melodic tones that translated roughly to familiar, yet evolved. These moments of recognition built a tentative bridge between them, each acknowledging the other's professionalism despite their species' differences. The tent's artificial lighting seemed to respond to their growing rapport, its intensity adjusting imperceptibly as if attuned to the changing atmosphere. Kale noticed how her previously rigid stance relaxed incrementally, though her hand never strayed far from her sidearm. Similarly, his own combat readiness diminished slightly, though years of training kept him alert to any sudden movements. Their conversation took an unexpected turn when she initiated discussion about the planet's environmental hazards. Through a combination of translated words and holographic projections from her wrist-mounted display, she illustrated patterns of electromagnetic activity that matched classified human data. The realization that their respective forces had been independently gathering similar intelligence created a moment of shared understanding and potential diplomatic leverage. Yet underlying their growing connection remained the unspoken awareness of their roles as soldiers representing opposing factions. Each glance at her rank insignia reminded Kale of the chain of command he was technically violating by engaging in this unauthorized dialogue. Similarly, her occasional checks of a chronometer embedded in her armor suggested she was acutely aware of the time-sensitive nature of their encounter. The situation took an unexpected turn when the alien woman suddenly stiffened, her multifaceted eyes fixing on something beyond Kale's shoulder. Following her gaze, he spotted a faint, pulsating light emanating from her armor's core module, a warning signal he'd seen described in briefings about their technology. The light's rhythm matched the increasing frequency of electromagnetic interference readings on his own equipment. Realization dawned simultaneously for both of them. The ion storm she'd fled from was tracking them. Her body language shifted dramatically, all traces of diplomatic posturing replaced by urgent efficiency. Through rapid-fire vocalizations that overwhelmed the translator, she began manipulating controls on her wrist display, projecting holographic maps that showed converging lines of magnetic force. Kale's military training kicked in as he processed the implications. Their current location would soon become a focal point for the storm's energy discharge. Complicating matters further, her armor's protective systems began cycling through emergency protocols, causing brief power fluctuations that affected the tent's human technology. Lights flickered erratically, and his communication device emitted warning beeps as it struggled to maintain signal integrity. The alien soldier's distress became palpable as her bioluminescent patterns flashed erratically, a clear indication of system overload. Kale faced a critical decision: evacuate and risk exposure of their unauthorized meeting, or attempt to weather the storm together in the relative safety of the tent. Military protocol demanded immediate separation and reporting, but practical survival instincts suggested cooperation. The alien woman seemed to reach the same conclusion, her posture shifting from defensive to collaborative as she pointed to specific areas of her holographic display. Their previous careful distance evaporated as they worked in tandem to reinforce the tent's electromagnetic shielding. Kale retrieved specialized equipment while she manipulated her armor's energy fields to create overlapping protection zones. Their movements became synchronized without conscious effort, each anticipating the other's needs in this crisis situation. The intimacy of their earlier conversation transformed into something more primal. Two soldiers united against a common threat. As the storm's influence intensified, strange phenomena began manifesting within their confined space. Objects hovered momentarily before settling back down, and the air crackled with static electricity. The alien woman's crystalline appendages extended fully, apparently serving as grounding conduits that helped stabilize their immediate environment. Kale observed how her presence seemed to anchor the very fabric of space around them, creating a pocket of relative stability amidst the chaos. Their combined efforts revealed deeper layers of their respective technologies. Kale's human-designed equipment interfaced with her alien systems in ways neither had anticipated, creating hybrid solutions to the escalating threat. Each successful adaptation brought them closer to mutual understanding, though the pressure of their situation prevented any verbal acknowledgement of this growing connection. The storm's approach forced them to prioritize survival over protocol, creating bonds that transcended their initial roles as representatives of separate species. Within the eye of their private storm, the alien woman's armor began to reveal hidden capabilities. Layers of her protective suit shifted and reconfigured, exposing intricate circuitry that pulsed with bioluminescent energy. Kale watched in awe as these patterns formed complex mathematical sequences, their rhythms syncing with the approaching electromagnetic waves. Her entire body seemed to resonate at frequencies that matched the storm's approach, transforming her into a living conduit for the planet's raw energy. The transformation wasn't purely technological. Beneath the shifting armor, her skin developed a crystalline texture, each facet reflecting and refracting the ambient light in impossible ways. Her eyes, already multifaceted, expanded their range of vision, allowing her to track multiple points of interest simultaneously. Kale realized she was experiencing a form of sensory enhancement triggered by the approaching danger, a biological adaptation that made her both more alien and more fascinatingly complex. Their proximity during the crisis had erased any remaining formal distance between them. When her enhanced senses detected microfractures forming in the tent's structural supports, she communicated the danger through direct physical gestures rather than relying on their faltering translation devices. Her crystalline fingers traced precise patterns on the tent walls, indicating stress points and suggesting reinforcement strategies. Kale responded instinctively, trusting her expertise without question. The electromagnetic interference reached a critical threshold, causing both their communication devices to fail completely. Rather than creating isolation, this cutoff from external contact forged a deeper connection between them. They developed a silent language of shared glances and subtle movements, each able to anticipate the other's actions with increasing accuracy. When Kale moved to adjust the power couplings on his equipment, she was already extending her energy dampening field to protect the sensitive components. Her physical transformation continued, revealing abilities that defied human understanding. The crystalline structures extending from her scalp began generating miniature containment fields, capturing rogue energy particles before they could cause damage. These fields interacted with Kale's human technology in unexpected ways, creating temporary fusion points where their different sciences merged seamlessly. The experience was both terrifying and exhilarating, forcing Kale to expand his understanding of what constituted possible in interspecies cooperation. As the storm's effects intensified, she demonstrated an extraordinary level of control over her enhanced state. Her movements became almost choreographed, each gesture calculated to maximize their combined defenses while minimizing energy expenditure. Kale found himself mirroring these patterns, his human reflexes adapting to complement her alien capabilities. Together, they created a dynamic defense system that neither could have achieved alone, their individual strengths combining into something greater than the sum of its parts. The crisis continued to evolve, pushing both soldiers beyond their conventional limits. The alien woman's bioluminescent patterns began to incorporate elements of human tactical displays, suggesting an unprecedented level of neural adaptation. Her armor's energy fields now responded to Kale's mental commands as naturally as they did to her own, creating a symbiotic relationship between their technologies. This merging of systems wasn't one-sided. Kale felt his own perceptions expanding, able to interpret the complex data streams flowing through her enhanced senses. Their physical proximity became essential as the storm's peak approached. Standing back to back, they formed a perfect circle of defense, each covering blind spots in the other's awareness. The heat generated by their combined protective fields created an intimate bubble of warmth within the increasingly hostile environment. Kale's human senses, augmented by her energy fields, detected patterns in the electromagnetic chaos that would have been invisible moments before. Similarly, she seemed to be integrating aspects of human spatial awareness into her enhanced perception matrix. Communication had transcended spoken language entirely. Complex thoughts and tactical assessments passed between them through subtle shifts in posture and changes in their combined energy signatures. When Kale identified a weakness in their defensive perimeter, She responded instantly by redirecting her crystalline appendages to strengthen that sector. Their movements became so perfectly synchronized that observers might have mistaken them for a single organism rather than two distinct beings. The storm's intensity revealed new dimensions to their connection. As energy surges threatened to overwhelm their defenses, Kale discovered he could channel excess power through his own equipment into her containment fields. This energy transfer created feedback loops that enhanced both their capabilities, allowing them to withstand stresses that should have been impossible for either to endure alone. The alien woman's eyes widened in what Kale interpreted as equal parts surprise and approval, their multifaceted surfaces reflecting the rainbow spectrum of their combined energies. Their shared experience was rewriting fundamental assumptions about interspecies interaction. Traditional barriers between human and alien physiology dissolved in the face of necessity, replaced by an emergent synergy that defied conventional understanding. Kale's military training had prepared him for many scenarios, but nothing could have equipped him for this profound integration of capabilities. Each passing moment of the crisis brought new revelations about the potential for cooperation between their species, insights that would have global implications if they survived to share them. The situation reached a critical juncture as their combined shields began to destabilize under the storm's relentless assault. The alien woman's bioluminescent patterns shifted to urgent warning colors, while Kale's human systems issued simultaneous alerts about imminent system failure. They exchanged a glance that conveyed volumes of unspoken understanding. Their window for decisive action was closing rapidly. Without conscious agreement, they began implementing a risky strategy that merged their most advanced technologies in ways neither had attempted before. She extended her energy fields to their maximum sustainable radius, creating a protective cocoon that encompassed both their forms. Within this shared space, Kale initiated a protocol designed for emergency power distribution, channeling energy through newly discovered compatible pathways in her armor's matrix. The resulting feedback created harmonic resonances that threatened to tear apart their improvised sanctuary, yet somehow maintained cohesion through their synchronized focus. Their breathing patterns unconsciously aligned, creating a rhythmic counterpoint to the storm's chaotic symphony. As the storm's peak converged upon their position, both soldiers experienced a phenomenon that transcended their previous understanding of consciousness. The alien woman's enhanced senses began transmitting data directly into Kale's neural interface, bypassing their failing translation devices. He found himself perceiving the electromagnetic spectrum through her multifaceted vision, while she gained access to his linear human perspective on temporal sequencing. This unprecedented neural link created flashes of shared memory and tactical insight that neither mind could have generated independently. Their physical connection deepened as the crisis demanded more intimate coordination. When her crystalline appendages began to overload from excessive energy absorption, Kale instinctively reached out to help redistribute the charge through his own equipment. The contact created an electric arc between them, but instead of causing injury, it strengthened their combined shielding. Her armor responded by integrating his biosignature into its protective algorithms, effectively treating him as an extension of her own physiology. The storm's fury reached its apex, threatening to breach their defenses at multiple points simultaneously. Working as a single entity, they rotated through defensive positions with mechanical precision, each movement anticipating the other's needs before they became apparent. When Kale's human systems began to fail under the strain, her energy fields adapted to support his vital functions, creating a hybrid life support system that defied both their species' medical conventions. Their heart rates, or equivalent physiological markers, achieved perfect synchronization, creating a biological harmony that stabilized their shared environment. Through this intense fusion of capabilities, they uncovered deeper layers of compatibility between their technologies. Human quantum encryption protocols meshed seamlessly with their species' dimensional folding techniques, creating information channels that operated beyond conventional physics. These discoveries occurred in real time, with each new insight immediately applied to strengthen their position against the storm's assault. The alien woman's armor began incorporating human problem-solving algorithms into its defensive calculations, while Kale's equipment adapted to utilize her species' advanced energy manipulation techniques. As the crisis entered its final, most dangerous phase, their combined presence created something entirely new, a fusion of human and alien capabilities that neither military nor scientific establishment had deemed possible. The distinction between rescuer and rescued dissolved completely, replaced by an emergent partnership that challenged every preconceived notion about interspecies interaction. Their survival depended not on dominance or submission, but on the perfect integration of their respective strengths into a unified whole that was greater than its parts. As the storm began to wane, the alien woman suddenly stiffened, her glowing eyes darting toward the tent's entrance. A low-frequency pulse from her armor signaled an incoming transmission. Her unit had located her. Kale watched as her posture shifted, the intimacy of their shared struggle giving way to the cold reality of their roles. She stepped back, her bioluminescent patterns dimming, and raised a hand in what he interpreted as both gratitude and farewell. Before she could leave, Kale instinctively reached out, his fingers brushing against her crystalline appendages. The contact sparked a brief flare of energy, a final echo of their connection. Her multifaceted eyes met his one last time, and though no words passed between them, the unspoken understanding was clear. What had transpired within the tent would remain between them, a secret forged in the crucible of survival. She vanished into the fading storm, leaving Kale alone with the hum of his equipment and the weight of what had just occurred. As he stared at the spot where she had stood, he realized the encounter had changed him, and perhaps, in ways neither species could yet comprehend, it had changed the fragile balance between their worlds. The alien woman paused at the tent's edge, her armor dimming to a soft glow. Kale's hand dropped to his side, the brief connection between them still tingling in his fingertips. She turned once more, her multifaceted eyes locking with his, and tilted her head, a gesture that felt almost human. A distant hum signaled her unit's approach, breaking the fragile stillness. Without a word, she stepped into the storm's remnants, her silhouette dissolving into the swirling haze. Kale exhaled, realizing he hadn't even learned her name, or if names mattered to her kind. The tent felt emptier now, the air heavy with unanswered questions. He glanced at his equipment, now subtly altered by their shared energy. Whatever had passed between them was no longer just his secret, it belonged to both species now. As the camp returned to its usual rhythm, Kale sat on his cot, staring at the spot where she had stood. The storm had passed, but its impact would linger, for him, for her, and perhaps for the future of their uneasy alliance.